special education teacher at PS number 34, as well as the JCEA senior building director, as well as the classroom teacher of the student who was slapped in the face by the Source for Teachers substitute earlier this month. I want to give a little background on this event. I'm the employee of a company. The Board of Education renewed their contract again for another $4 million, while telling the teachers and support staff there is not enough money to pay our raises and settle our contracts.
And we don't deserve it. Don't leave that out.
I'm a third grade inclusion teacher. On October 1st, 2014, my co-teacher was absent. I was in school this day. At 2:35 p.m., I was called into a meeting with my principal, assistant principal, and another teacher. At this time, a Source for Teachers substitute was left alone with my students. I will repeat, at 2:35 p.m., which means this substitute only had to watch my students alone for 10 minutes and couldn't handle it. 5 minutes into the meeting, my principal gets called. When she returns, she says to me, "Miss Fantacone, you are not going to believe this, but your classroom is alleging that the substitute just struck one of your students in the face." As this was the end of the day and during dismissal, by the time administration was able to respond, the substitute had just opened the door and let my third grade children run off alone instead of following the dismissal procedure. How did we find out about the incident? One of my students ran across the hall to another third grade teacher for help. Luckily, all the third grade teachers banded together to help my students, alert administration, and help the children find their parents after school. The police were called to the school. The student who was struck was interviewed with his mother and aunt present. 2 of my students who were also still in the building attending Casper were interviewed and had the same story. Diapers came the next day. All the students had the same exact story. The little boy ran for his book bag, fell. The substitute then picked him up by his shirt and slapped him across the face in front of my whole classroom of 8- and 9-year-old third graders.
Wow.
When the police spoke to the head of Source for Teachers, she refused to give the man's name and became irate and screaming and threatening the police officers. This is the company we're doing business with?
Yeah.
The next day, my students expressed their fears to both myself and my co-teacher. They did not, and still do not, feel comfortable or safe having a substitute ever again. If I am called to a meeting, they cry and beg me not to leave them. I asked my administration to have a counselor come and speak to my students, but that has not happened. I will not allow this incident to be swept under the rug. I come here tonight to ask what the board is going to do for my students who are still traumatized by this incident. I want somebody from the board to come look my young 8- and 9-year-old students in their eyes, hear their fears, and tell them that they'll be safe and protected. Source for Teachers needs to be fired immediately.
Woo! That's right.
I am coming here first, but I promise I will not let this incident be ignored. Stop wasting money on companies that care more about business than children. Do you now see who will be left to teach classes if you lost the wonderful, dedicated, and knowledgeable staff? Stop spending money inappropriately. Fire Source for Teachers and give all of us the fair contract we have earned and deserve.
Permission to give these to the board members.